over the years. He said, "I'm 94 years old." Clint Eastwood finally spoke out, lifting the veil of secrecy that had shrouded Gene Hackman for over 50 years, the friend, the rival, and the most haunting ghost in his life. Every word Clint spoke cut through memories like a blunt knife, dragging out broken phone calls, unspoken words, almost like backstage punches exchanged after Unforgiven. And because of certain secrets about Gene Hackman, Clint made it clear that if they weren't revealed, he'd take them to the grave. What is that truth? If you want to know, leave a comment with the number 1. This is a story of friendship and the tragedy of cowboys who never learned how to bow their heads. Of Clint and Gene, 2 men destined to face each other through the barrel of a gun until the end of their lives. In January 2024, as winter covered Carmel by the sea in a blanket of snow, Clint Eastwood sat at an old wooden table by the window, his weathered fingers gripping the fountain pen that had been with him for decades. In front of him was a blank sheet of paper, still and silent, as though waiting for one final confession. Clint wasn't the type to offer apologies, much less explanations. But he wrote slowly, each stroke of the pen trembling, as if every word carried the weight of a long, heavy past. This letter was for Gene Hackman, the friend, the rival, the only person Clint Eastwood both wanted to avoid and yet desperately wished to see again in this world. "Gene, I guess we both thought we had more time. Turns out all we really have is Unforgiven." These brief, blunt words were as much a reflection of Clint himself, yet beneath the black ink lay a lifetime of highs and lows between 2 old cowboys, disagreements over every frame, long, silent phone calls, those glances that understood each other's breath without a word. Clint folded the letter and placed it in a worn brown envelope, but he never sent it. The letter stayed in an old wooden box in the corner of the room, alongside unwritten scripts, blurry behind-the-scenes photos, and untold memories of Gene Hackman. The box stood like a silent diary, a place where everything Clint had left unsaid was quietly buried. When his family found it after Gene Hackman and his wife passed away, the letter was still intact, unsealed, never having left that room. An unsent letter, but one that no longer mattered, for the recipient had understood long ago. Some friendships don't need a perfect ending. Some apologies don't need to be spoken, and some cowboys are meant to stand at opposite ends of the town, not moving forward, not turning away, just quietly waiting for each other as the sun sets. That evening, Clint sat on the porch, his eyes fixed on the fiery horizon. The shadows stretched longer, gradually enveloping his frail figure. An old gunslinger who had finally realized that all the grudges, stubbornness, and pride between him and Gene Hackman didn't truly matter. All that remained were the whispers of the wind carrying the sound of distant hooves, where the 2 old gunslingers would at last ride together on a road no longer divided. The letter stayed in the old box, a final secret between the 2 men, and Clint Eastwood, the last gunslinger, whispered into the darkness, "I'll see you again, Gene, when the storm settles." 2 old gunslingers, one fallen, one standing tall, left only with unsaid words, unsent letters, and rusted guns lying still beneath the dust of time. The news of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa's passing on a quiet afternoon in Santa Fe spread through Hollywood like a cold breeze. There was no grand spectacle, no public outpouring, just as fitting as the quiet life he'd led in his final 20 years. But as the breeze faded, it left behind a deep emptiness, one that wasn't just felt in the history of cinema, but in the hearts of those who had shared the spotlight with Gene. Hollywood was struck by the sobering realization that a monument had quietly disappeared into the sunset. Tributes began to fall like a gentle rain, persistent but soft, from young faces who never met Gene to the seasoned veterans who had always viewed him as the gold standard of acting. Everyone shared heartfelt tributes for the tough yet incredibly talented cowboy. Morgan Freeman, who had stood alongside Gene in Unforgiven, posted a black-and-white photo from 1992 showing the three men, Clint, Gene, and Morgan, sitting together on a wooden porch, each holding a cigarette, gazing into the distance. Gene was the only one who could push Clint Eastwood's patience on set, but Clint was the one who could always make Gene laugh with a dry joke. They were like oil and water, unable to live without each other. But the most awaited tribute, of course, was Clint Eastwood's. Clint didn't write much. He sent only a single handwritten letter through his manager to The Hollywood Reporter. The letter was short, but every sentence seemed to capture half a century of highs and lows between the two cowboys. Gene Hackman and I were never close friends, at least not by Hollywood standards. We didn't text. We didn't send birthday invites. We argued more than we laughed. We were silent more than we spoke. But if anyone were to ask me, at the end of my gun, who I'd most want to see, the answer has always been Gene Hackman. Just 4 sentences, but they sent shockwaves through Hollywood. That statement, for the American film industry, felt like a legendary vow because if Clint Eastwood was the last remaining figure from the golden cowboy era, Gene Hackman was the only one brave enough to stand beside him. Unafraid, unyielding, neither enemy nor full ally, but the one person Clint believed deserved his final bullet. The story of Unforgiven is the one most often remembered. The brutal, grim Western where Clint and Gene first aimed their guns at each other, both on screen and off. The media has often recounted behind-the-scenes moments, like when Gene Hackman got upset after Clint changed a line on set, or when Clint quietly left a meeting after Gene made a comment that bruised his director's ego. But no matter what, they always found their way back to each other in the end. Old photos flood social media, showing Clint and Gene standing in the cold rain in Alberta, their dusty coats, eyes squinting against the wind. 2 men not smiling, not posing, just standing there as if nothing in the world mattered except the person beside them. Hollywood loves flashy stories, but the tale of Clint and Gene is one of rough edges. No perfect friendship, no nights of shared beers, just awkward handshakes after every argument, short handwritten letters filled with thousands of unsaid words. And maybe it's that imperfect bond that earned them more respect in Hollywood than any polished, flawless friendship. We don't have to like each other to know we need each other. Clint's words from 2004 suddenly went viral, spreading across film forums. Gene Hackman had passed, taking with him the untold secrets of his life, but Clint Eastwood remains, a lone gunslinger standing on the hilltop, staring down at the valley of the past. Now there's no one at the other end of the barrel to challenge Clint, to argue over every scene, or to quietly sit beside him after long days of shooting. No one understood Clint Eastwood quite like Gene Hackman did. Hollywood remembers Gene Hackman as a cinematic icon, but to Clint, Gene wasn't just a legend. He was the only one bold enough to call Clint a stubborn old man, and then burst into laughter, the only one daring enough to throw a script in Clint's face, pick it up, revise it, and say, "Make it right." And when night falls, amidst the dim yellow lights of a roadside bar, perhaps somewhere in the Hollywood sky, two cowboy ghosts are riding side by side down a dusty road, saying nothing, needing no words, just two old men finally riding together as they were meant to. In 2015, a handwritten letter with no return address, just 3 faint, swaying letters in the top left corner, GH, arrived in the old wooden mailbox at Clint Eastwood's home in Carmel. Dina, his ex-wife, who still visited occasionally to care for the house when Clint was away, found it. She placed it on his desk next to a pile of dusty scripts, then silently left without saying a word. She knew that letter mattered more than any $1,000,000 script, for it came from Gene Hackman, the old friend who had lingered in Clint's thoughts long after they stopped standing together under the bright lights of the set. Inside the envelope was a yellowed piece of paper with shaky, slanted handwriting, yet still sharp in the way only a man with countless golden statues could manage. There were no greetings, no lengthy introductions. Gene went straight to the point, as he always did in life. One final journey. "Clint, it's just you and me. No Oscars, no press, no agents. Just us and a story only we can tell." Clint read that letter over and over until its edges were creased and yellowed with time. But he never replied. Not because he didn't want to, but because Clint understood that some journeys are meant to be dreamed, not lived. The bond between Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman didn't begin on the set of Unforgiven. In fact, they first crossed paths in the 1970s, when Clint was trying to step out from the shadow of Dirty Harry, and Gene had just won an Oscar for The French Connection. Their brief encounter at a producer's party left no lasting mark. Clint stood quietly in the corner, swirling his whiskey glass, while Gene laughed loudly, the confident glow of a recent winner in his eyes. They were two opposite forces, one as quiet as a cold gun, the other as fiery as a matchstick burning bright. Then, in 1992, Unforgiven brought them together. No fanfare, no trumpets, just two old cowboys sharing one last cigarette before the sunset. Clint never forgot the look on Gene's face after the final scene, when William Money turned his back and walked away in the rain. Gene watched him, no acting, no words, just the genuine gaze of a man who knew his time was running out. From that look, an invisible thread tied them together. After Unforgiven, their meetings became infrequent. Meals were rare, calls spaced out over many years, but the handwritten letters never stopped. Gene didn't use email, and Clint wasn't fond of texting. Both believed only handwritten words held the weight of things they couldn't express out loud. In those letters, there were jokes about Hollywood's growing shallowness, memories of shooting in the cold, and confessions only made when alone at a writing desk. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if we made one last movie?" Gene had written once. Clint read it, folded it, placed it in a drawer, and stepped outside to light a cigar. He didn't reply, not because there was no answer, but because the question itself was enough. They both knew the shadow of Unforgiven was too big, so big that anything they did afterward would only be a faint echo of it. But in 2015, Gene wrote again, without warning, without hesitation. This time, he sent a direct invitation. "There's a story we haven't told, Clint. The story of two men who should have died long ago but somehow survived and continue to write." "Tell it before it's too late." Clint held the letter in his hand for a long time. In his mind, the scenes started playing on their own. Two old cowboys, hunched backs, trembling hands, standing face to face on a dusty street, no guns, only words left unsaid. But Clint knew Gene wasn't just asking him to make a movie. He was inviting Clint on one final journey, a journey of two old souls who had weathered every storm a film could bring, but not the storm of friendship. In 2018, at a corner table in a small seaside bar in Carmel, California, Clint Eastwood sat across from his longtime agent, a thick stack of scripts in front of him. These weren't the usual Hollywood scripts he received each week. This was a special project, one proposed by a special person, Gene Hackman. It all began a few months earlier when Gene, who had nearly vanished from public life after his last film, Welcome to Mooseport in 2004, unexpectedly called Clint. Gene's voice was deeper now, the loud laughter and familiar sarcastic remarks gone, replaced by a slow deliberation, as if each word was carefully weighed before being spoken. "Clint, I've got something. Maybe my last film. I don't know how much time I have left, but if there's one last film, I only want to make it with you." Clint stayed silent for a long time on the other end of the line. They say that when old gunslingers talk about their final stand, it means the guns are loaded, but no one knows where the bullet will land. That film was never officially announced. No title, no producer, not even a formal contract. Just the initial idea scribbled on a crumpled piece of paper. Two old cowboys, once comrades, now standing at opposite ends of a town, each holding a secret that cannot be revealed, a gunfight no one wants, but one they can't escape. Clint liked the idea, and Gene liked it too, but that was the last point they agreed on. The project dragged on through countless arguments. Clint wanted the film to be nostalgic, a peaceful goodbye to their golden era, while Gene envisioned it as cold and brutal, exposing the dark side of legends. No glory, just scars hidden beneath wrinkled skin. They argued through handwritten letters, then over the phone. The letters that had once brought them together now became sharp weapons. Gene accused Clint of being afraid to tarnish his own monument, while Clint mocked Gene for clinging to a fading light. Word by word, sentence by sentence, they drove each other further apart. The climax came in a private meeting between the two at the end of 2018 in Santa Fe. No assistants, no producers, just the two men who had once stood side by side, now facing each other in a dimly lit room. No one knew exactly what was said, but according to a hotel employee who overheard, it was Gene who stormed out first, kicking the door open so violently that a painting on the wall shook. Clint stayed behind, staring at the whiskey glass in front of him, never taking a sip. In 2021, at the height of the pandemic, when everything seemed frozen in time, Gene suddenly called Clint. It was their first call in over 2 years. No one knew who called first, but both understood this might be their last. They stayed silent for a long time after the initial greeting. Gene asked about Clint's health. Clint gave a short reply. They talked about the weather, gas prices, the old films they had both been a part of, but neither of them brought up the unfinished film from 2018. Suddenly, Gene paused, his voice soft as if speaking to himself. "Clint, do you remember the last scene of Unforgiven, when I stood there watching you ride off into the rain?" Clint stayed silent. Gene chuckled quietly. "I never said it, but I knew. I knew we'd never have another one." Clint wanted to say something, but his throat tightened. The call ended with a sigh from both sides. They didn't hang up immediately, leaving it there, listening to each other's breath, as if two old cowboys stood at opposite ends of a town, hands on their guns, but no one drawing. After that call, Clint told a close friend, "I don't think I'll talk to Gene again," and he was right. When the news of Gene's passing spread in 2023, Clint made no public statement, posted no tribute. He simply retreated to his ranch, opening an old drawer where he kept all the letters Gene had sent, from the youthful ones to the final trembling words. Clint read through them all, each word, each punctuation mark, as if searching for any secret Gene had left unsaid. He found no secrets, only empty spaces, unfinished sentences, words crossed out, letters never sent. The greatest secret of Gene Hackman wasn't in those lines, but in the long silence between them, a bullet that had slipped between two old friends, never falling. And Clint understood that a part of his soul had gone with Gene down that dusty road long ago. When the news of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa's death was discovered in their small home in Santa Fe, it didn't shock Clint Eastwood. At 94, Clint understood that quiet departures in the night were no longer unusual. What left him motionless by the window of his Carmel ranch that morning wasn't the news of Gene's passing, but the realization that the final words that should have been said would now never be spoken. The press quickly surrounded him, desperate for a statement from Clint. For the past 2 years, Clint and Gene had been estranged, avoiding each other entirely, with not a single word exchanged since their last phone call in 2021, when silence spoke louder than any words. The distance between them had grown too vast to bridge. But that day, Clint shattered the silence, not through a statement from his agent or a cold press release, but by standing in front of a local newspaper's camera. His voice cracked with age and the weight of years spent in isolation. "There was no actor greater than Gene Hackman, and there was no friend more important to me than him." Just 2 simple sentences, no flair, no exaggeration. Yet, for those who had followed the journey of these 2 legendary figures, it was clear that Clint Eastwood had never spoken those words about anyone. Not about Sergio Leone, Lee Van Cleef, or even his first wife. Only Gene Hackman. The reporters thought that was the end of it, but Clint wasn't done. After that brief statement, he returned to his farm, shut the door, and cut off all communication. The landline, the cell phone, the old fax machine, everything fell silent, like a desert after a gunfight. The only call made was to Kyle Eastwood, Clint's eldest son, who understood the complex, deep bond between his father and Gene Hackman better than anyone. Kyle later shared with a close friend that his father's voice that day sounded different, softer, burdened. The voice of the man with no name was gone, replaced by an old man finally acknowledging he had lost the battle with himself. "We wasted too much time being stubborn old men." Just those few words with no elaboration, no excuses. But in those words, there was all the regret, humility, and emotion Clint had kept buried for so long. Gene Hackman wasn't just a co-star or a partner in on-screen confrontations. He was the only one who truly reflected the rough, flawed, and vulnerable side of Clint Eastwood, the part hidden beneath his tough cowboy exterior. And Clint knew that Gene Hackman was also the only person who ever dared to face himself in that same mirror. The two stubborn old men, as Clint called them, had spent nearly 50 years doing everything but admitting just how much they needed one another. They exchanged letters, stories, and unfinished dreams. They argued, hung up on each other, and spent hours in absurd drinking binges. But they never said that when the end came, the hardest part wasn't losing a friend, but realizing they had pushed that friend too far away, past the point of no return. And when the dust finally settled, Clint sat alone on the porch, gazing at the Pacific Ocean. No cigarette, no whiskey, just the wind howling through the old wooden planks. Those close to Clint know he's not the type to cry easily. But on that day, Kyle said his eyes were red, tears that never fell, but quietly wore away the sharp edges of an old cowboy's soul. Clint had survived countless on-screen gunfights, but his final battle with his own stubbornness was the hardest loss. The press kept speculating, wondering if there was a joint will between Clint and Gene, a secret pact about the unfinished movie from 2018, or a final letter Clint never sent. No one knows except Clint, and he'll never reveal it. Do you know about that letter? If so, leave comment number 2. If not, leave number 5. The world saw only an old, frail man sitting quietly at the dinner table, toying with an old lighter, a birthday gift from Gene in 1985 after Pale Rider was released, engraved with just 2 words: compadre. Not friend, not brother, just compadre, a companion, a gunslinger who'd stand by your side but was also ready to draw when needed. As the sun set over the Carmel Ranch, Clint's shadow stretched across the wooden floor, merging with the sound of waves crashing. Life continued as it always had, but somewhere in that fading light, maybe Gene Hackman still stood there watching his old friend, just like in the days when they stood on opposite ends of town. No words spoken, no shots fired, just 2 old souls finally learning to let go. Clint Eastwood sat silently, lost in thought by the living room window, his weathered hand gently resting on the worn wooden armrest. The sunset cast long shadows through the glass, washing a pale hue over the old photographs on the wall. At 94, each passing day felt like a fragile sheet of paper, ready to be torn apart by the winds of memory. But today, the wind carried not the scent of gunpowder from the Wild West or the rustle of a new script. Instead, it carried the weight of unspoken truths, memories long buried, and a quiet reflection on a lifetime spent facing the ghosts of the past. Today, there was only silence, and this silence was named Gene Hackman. Clint Eastwood had lived with silence like an old, stern friend. Those who knew him understood that Clint wasn't one to dwell on the past or cling to old glories. But this silence was different from anything he had ever known. It was heavy, like the click of a gun with no bullets left, like the final step on barren land. For the man who had passed was Little Bill Daggett, the ghost of a friend and rival, a shadow that would linger long after the credits rolled. Clint and Jean weren't the type to call each other daily or hang out on weekends. They were from an older generation of friends, men who communicated through looks, nods, and quick words between takes. Unforgiven wasn't just an Oscar-winning film. It was a bond that tied the two Western hearts together. Over the years, many Hollywood colleagues have become rivals, but Clint and Jean never let awards or the spotlight eclipse the respect they held for one another. When Unforgiven came out in 1992, Clint was 62, and Jean was also 62. The two seasoned men emerged from the shadows of a golden era to tell their story. That of the old heroes, survivors of countless battles and too many stray bullets. "Killing a man is a hard thing," William Money's line echoed like a death knell, haunting those who had worn the cowboy hat for real. From that moment, Clint and Jean knew their bond had deepened, unbreakable. But time is merciless to all. In the years that followed, Clint kept pushing forward in filmmaking, while Jean slipped away without fanfare. No retirement party, no emotional speech. Gene Hackman, the relentless cop Popeye Doyle, the man who once shook America to its core, vanished from Hollywood as if he'd never been there. Clint called a few times, then stopped. He understood that sometimes old cowboys choose to quietly disappear into the darkness, like the last bullet hitting the ground. Every time Gene's name came up, Clint's expression turned somber. "He was one of the best," he'd say, then lapse into silence. No one knew what had been said between them after their last meeting. All anyone noticed was that whenever Unforgiven was mentioned, Clint would retreat to his private room, sit beside his old guitar, and gently strum a few notes. Once, when asked if he kept in touch with Jean, Clint just smiled and said, "We had our time." But what was the truth? No one knew. Clint wasn't one to open up easily, and Jean was even less so. Both carried the weight of lost cowboys in a digital world. They were icons of a time when men settled matters with guns and silence. But Jean's departure, with all its oddity and mystery, pushed Clint to break his rule of never sharing. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to support our channel. See you in the next one. Gene Hackman, a Hollywood legend with iconic roles that dominated the big screen, is now the focal point of a shocking FBI investigation. What they discovered at the scene of his death is truly shocking. So, what's the mystery behind Hackman's death? Is it just a coincidence, or is something being hidden? Let's uncover the truth right now. Before we dive into this shocking case, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. If you're passionate about mysterious deaths, unexplained circumstances, and complicated cases, this is the channel for you. The death of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, still leaves many unanswered questions. While it is considered an unfortunate accident, the gravity of the incident cannot be overlooked. The anomalies in the case have drawn the attention of the FBI, and as they began investigating what truly happened, a more frightening picture gradually emerged, with puzzling details, suspicious clues, and shocking evidence. The truth behind their deaths may be more horrifying than anyone could imagine. More importantly, Uncovering the real reason behind their passing could help prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. On February 26, 2025, a chilling discovery shook Hollywood. The bodies of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found at their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hackman, who dominated Hollywood with iconic roles in films like Unforgiven, The French Connection, and many other famous movies, had stepped away from the spotlight nearly 2 decades ago, enjoying a quiet life with his wife, Betsy Arakawa, a talented classical pianist. On the morning of that day, a maintenance worker performing a routine check in the area noticed that the front door of the house was wide open, an unusual sight for a well-kept residence. After knocking several times with no response, he decided to enter, and what he saw changed everything forever. Gene Hackman was found motionless at the entrance, while the body of Betsy Arakawa was discovered in the bathroom. Both had died several days prior, with signs of severe decomposition, indicating that no one had known about their deaths for quite some time. But the oddities didn't stop there. Inside a closet near the bathroom, one of their pet dogs was found dead, while 2 others were still alive in other areas of the house. Why was only one dog dead and locked in the closet? Was this just a coincidence, or is it an important clue in the case? That was just the beginning of a mysterious case, where every detail could completely change the story. So, what really happened to Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa? Was their death truly an accident, or is there something darker hidden behind it? Stay tuned until the end of the video to uncover the truth. Upon initial inspection, investigators found no signs of forced entry. The door was intact, there were no obvious external injuries, and no signs of a robbery. At first glance, this seemed like a tragic case of an elderly couple passing away in their own home. However, as the investigation deepened, they quickly realized that nothing about this case was as simple as it appeared. Near Betsy Arakawa's body, investigators found several prescription medications scattered on the bathroom floor, including blood pressure and thyroid medications, suggesting she may have faced a medical emergency or possibly overdosed. However, carbon monoxide poisoning, a common cause of sudden death in homes, was ruled out. In-depth testing revealed no gas leaks or abnormal levels of toxic gas in the house. A major breakthrough occurred when medical examiners analyzed data from Gene Hackman's pacemaker. The results revealed that his heart stopped beating on February 17, 2025, approximately 9 days before the bodies were discovered. This helps narrow down the time of death, but it also raises a major question. Hackman truly passed on February 17th, but what about Betsy Arakawa? Did she die at the same time as her husband? Or did she survive for some time after? The questions become even more complicated when considering the 911 call made by the maintenance worker, the first person to discover the scene. Initially, he reported that there was only one body, but later in the same call, he corrected himself and stated that 2 people had died. Was this simply a mistake due to shock? Or is there something else he has yet to reveal? The suspicions surrounding the final days of the couple continue to grow. Neighbors and family members stated that they hadn't seen or been able to contact Hackman and Arakawa for nearly 2 weeks before their bodies were discovered. While Hackman and Arakawa were known for their private lifestyle, the fact that no one noticed their absence for such an extended period is unusual. The question remains, why did no one realize something was wrong sooner? The location of the bodies also provides important clues. Hackman was found lying in the hallway, suggesting that he may have suddenly collapsed. Meanwhile, Arakawa was discovered in the bathroom, surrounded by various medications, implying that she may have tried to take medication in response to an emergency situation. But the biggest mystery revolves around the fate of the dogs in the house. One of their dogs was found dead inside a closet near where Betsy Arakawa passed, almost as if it had hidden there out of fear. Meanwhile, 2 other dogs were found in different parts of the house, dehydrated, but still alive. What caused one dog to die while the other 2 survived? As the investigation delves deeper, more and more unanswered questions arise. What really happened inside the home of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa? Was it just a tragic accident, or is there a hidden secret being concealed? As soon as the news about the incident spread, many theories quickly emerged surrounding the mysterious death of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Based on data from the pacemaker, medical experts consulted by the investigation team believe that Hackman may have suffered a severe heart attack on February 17th. The stroke caused him to collapse in the hallway, unable to call for help. According to this theory, Arakawa might have heard the noise and rushed into the bathroom. Upon finding her husband lying motionless, she may have panicked and gone to the bathroom to get emergency medication. But it was here that another tragedy unfolded. She may have encountered a health emergency of her own, possibly a heart attack due to stress or an undiagnosed medical condition. The scattered medications on the floor seem to support this theory, suggesting that she was desperately searching for something to save either her husband or herself before collapsing. However, this theory still leaves many unanswered questions. One of the biggest mysteries is the strange death of the dog in the closet. Some believe the animal may have been ill and instinctively sought out a hidden place to die. But there are also more concerning theories. Could the dog have ingested something toxic? And if so, could that be the cause of the deaths of Hackman and his wife? Despite thorough inspections, investigators found no trace of any toxins in the environment of the house. Another controversial factor is the 911 call made by the maintenance worker. Initially, he reported finding only 1 body, but just moments later he corrected himself, stating that 2 people had died. Was this simply a mistake due to the shock of witnessing the horrific scene, or is there something else being hidden? Although he was interrogated multiple times, the maintenance worker showed no suspicious signs. His work records were completely clean, and he had been working at Hackman's house for many years. However, his call remains one of the most puzzling details of the case. Another mystery that has led to much speculation is the long period of time the couple went without contacting the outside world. Although they lived privately, the fact that they completely disappeared for nearly 2 weeks is still unusual. According to close friends who were interviewed, Hackman and Arakawa kept in touch with a small group of trusted individuals. The fact that no one heard from them during such an extended period raises a question. Was this merely a personal tragedy, or is there a deeper truth being hidden in the shadows? As investigators delved deeper into the case, they carefully examined the couple's medical history. Gene Hackman, 95 years old, had a history of heart disease and had been implanted with a pacemaker several years ago. Betsy Arakawa, 65 years old, significantly younger, also had some health issues, including high blood pressure and thyroid disease. The autopsy reports provided some important information, but also raised many new questions about the cause of their deaths. Hackman's death was determined to be from cardiac arrest, consistent with his previous medical condition. However, the autopsy of Arakawa did not provide a clear conclusion. While she showed signs of heart disease, experts could not definitively determine whether she died from natural causes or from the stress of trying to help her husband. The report also suggested the possibility that she may have fallen before passing away. Notably, one of their pet dogs died from dehydration, seemingly locked in a closet for several days without anyone knowing. The deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa not only shocked Hollywood, but also rocked the Santa Fe community. Hackman, who stepped away from the screen in 2004, remains a legend with his iconic roles in Unforgiven and The French Connection, two films that earned him the prestigious Academy Award. Betsy Arakawa, though less known to the public, was a talented classical pianist, highly respected within the professional music community. They had been together since the early 1980s and officially married in 1991, building a strong love that lasted over 4 decades. Despite their 30-year age gap, they were always referred to as one of Hollywood's most beautiful love stories. Close friends described them as always being devoted to each other, which further strengthens the theory that Arakawa may have died while trying to save Hackman. Another theory being considered is the possibility that a prolonged accident led to the deaths of both. Hackman may have fallen and been injured on February 17th, since their home was in a remote area and Arakawa had her own physical limitations. She may have been unable to lift him or call for help in time. If this theory is correct, Arakawa may have spent several days trying to care for Hackman until she either became exhausted or suffered from a serious medical condition herself. This theory also explains the discrepancy in their time of death. The condition of Arakawa's body suggests that she may have passed away several days after Hackman. It could also explain the dog being trapped in the closet. Perhaps it ran in there during a moment of panic and got stuck. However, one mystery remains. Why didn't Arakawa call for help? The investigation confirmed that their phone lines were still working. Both had mobile phones with fully charged batteries. If Hackman was in danger, why didn't she call for help? Some theories suggest that Arakawa may have become disoriented or fallen, sustaining injuries that prevented her from calling for help. Other theories propose more concerning scenarios, such as the presence of an intruder. However, there were no signs of forced entry or a struggle in the house, making this theory less likely. Nevertheless, investigators remain cautious and have not ruled out any possibilities. To this day, the case still raises many unanswered questions, and the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa remain a mystery that continues to captivate public attention. The deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa remain shrouded in mystery, leaving both the public and investigators struggling to accept a simple conclusion. Is this simply a tragic series of natural events, or is there something darker being hidden? The remote house in the wilderness, the prolonged silence, the conflicting 911 call, the strange death of the dog. All of these details are like pieces of a puzzle that can't be put together into a complete picture. Did Hackman really collapse from a heart attack as the autopsy report concluded? Or was there an unforeseen accident that left him unable to help himself? If he died first, why didn't Arakawa, who had devoted herself to caring for her husband for so many years, call for help? The biggest question that investigators have yet to explain is the difference in the time of death between them. Hackman's body showed signs of having died several days earlier, while Arakawa's condition suggests she may have lived longer, possibly a few days after her husband's death. So what happened during that time? Did she try to survive, seeking help, or simply collapse from exhaustion after futile efforts to save her husband? There's even a theory suggesting that Arakawa didn't die from natural causes, but from injuries sustained while trying to assist Hackman. Could she have fallen, or is there another factor that we haven't uncovered yet? The mystery becomes even more puzzling when considering the detail of the dog being locked in the wardrobe. Why was it locked in? Could it have run into the wardrobe in a panic during the incident and accidentally gotten trapped? If Arakawa survived after Hackman's death, why didn't she open the door to let it out? A person who loved her family as much as she did would not have left her pet in such a dangerous situation. This detail raises even more questions about what really happened inside their home. Why didn't Arakawa call for help? This remains one of the most puzzling questions of the case. The phone lines in the house were still working, and both of their mobile phones still had battery. What prevented her from making a simple call to save herself? Some theories suggest that she may have lost her bearings due to injury or stress. But could that be enough to explain the absolute silence for several days? Or is there a more troubling possibility? Could an intruder have caused the chaos that led them to this dire situation? Although there are no clear signs of a struggle or unauthorized entry, the mysterious nature of the case makes it impossible to rule out any possibilities. Currently, the cause of their death is classified as undetermined, not entirely an accident, but also not concluded as a homicide. It is this ambiguity that adds to the allure of the case. We know that Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were together for over 4 decades, overcoming a 30-year age gap and built a strong and lasting love. But did they spend their final moments in pain and despair, separated by harsh circumstances? Did Arakawa struggle to survive, trying to help her husband but failing, and ultimately succumbing herself? Or is there something darker unfolding inside what seemed like a peaceful home? The more we dig, the more questions arise. The theories continue to swirl around this case, and even the smallest detail could completely change the way we perceive the events. Public opinion remains divided. Some believe this was simply a tragedy caused by old age and illness, while others sense that something is off about the details of the case. Are there important clues still undiscovered? Is something being hidden? Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. The mysterious deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa still leave many unanswered questions. Whether this was a tragic accident of fate or an unsolved mystery, we have lost two extraordinary people who spent over 4 decades together in love and connection. Their story is a reminder of the fragility of life and the unknowns that surround us. Sometimes, the truth isn't in what is obvious, but in what we haven't yet seen. Are there clues still being hidden? Will we ever know the whole truth? Thank you for watching the video. If you found this information interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for the latest updates. We will continue to follow and provide updates as new discoveries emerge. Leave your thoughts in the comments section and let us know what you think about these findings. The safe door was unbreached, and the front entrance showed no signs of forced entry. But what the FBI found in Gene Hackman's mansion was even more horrifying than all the scandals in Hollywood combined. Each detail revealed seemed to tear open the viewer's chest, exposing the darkest secrets that the film capital had tried to hide beneath its glamorous facade. Behind that glittering exterior were bloody hunts, orgies, and bone-chilling events. The FBI didn't just find evidence. They inadvertently stripped away the polished exterior of Hollywood, exposing the rotting skeleton beneath. Gene Hackman didn't just depart because he knew too much, but because he had seen the truth far too clearly. And what he left behind was a tragic legacy, revealing an industry built on illusion, where every glimmer of fame came at the cost of human lives. The Golden Gates silently closed on the dirt road in Santa Fe, hiding all the secrets behind them. Amidst the land of art, among adobe houses bathed in the warmth of the sun, stood a mansion that had been the retreat of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, for over 3 decades. It had once been an impenetrable sanctuary, where the man holding 2 Oscar statues retreated from the flashbulbs and hollow applause. But on a gray morning in early 2024, the walls surrounding this place were no longer a veil protecting privacy. They became a shroud concealing a deadly secret. The passing of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa was discovered in an unexpected way. The light no longer streamed from the glass-walled room at the back of the house, where Gene would often sit reading books and sipping his morning tea. The mailman, accustomed to the couple's routines, noticed that their mailbox was overflowing, with letters scattered about as though no one had touched them in days. When the Santa Fe police forced their way through the door, they could not have imagined what awaited them inside. The body of Gene Hackman lay on the living room floor curled up, his face so stiff it was nearly unrecognizable. Beside him, Betsy Arakawa rested her head against the sofa, her hand hanging limp as if she had tried but failed to reach for something on the table. There were no signs of a struggle, no fatal wounds, but the foul stench that filled the stagnant air of the mansion made the first responding forensic officers retreat to catch their breath. They had been dead for a long time, much longer than anyone had expected before the discovery. Silent death. That was the first phrase recorded in the Santa Fe Police Department's internal report. But that silence didn't last long. Within hours of the information leaking, Santa Fe was shaken by rumors and conspiracy theories. Some said Gene Hackman had been assassinated, a Hollywood-style purge where old secrets were unearthed by enemies from the past. Others speculated that Betsy Arakawa had been poisoned, and in his desperation, Gene Hackman had taken his own life after witnessing his wife collapse in the home he had once called the last bastion of peace. No one knew what was truth, what was fiction, but one thing was clear. Everyone felt uneasy. Things became even more bizarre when the FBI got involved. Typically, the death of a reclusive star in their private home rarely attracts the attention of federal agencies. But with Gene Hackman, as soon as the local coroner's office had finished processing the scene, a silent procession of black SUVs from the FBI quietly glided past the Golden Gates. No sirens, no noise, just agents in black suits, sunglasses, and stoic faces walking straight into the mansion. The question was immediately raised. Why would the FBI care about the death of an actor who had been away from Hollywood for nearly 20 years? The answer was never made public. However, according to an anonymous source within the investigative team, what the FBI uncovered in the Santa Fe mansion completely shifted the direction of the investigation. It wasn't just the bodies of an elderly couple, nor merely old memorabilia or a few sentimental photos. The FBI discovered a hidden room, a small door concealed behind an old oak bookshelf, where Gene Hackman had once jokingly said, "If I have any secrets, they'll go with me to the grave." Inside that room, what exactly was found remains a mystery. However, according to an agent present at the scene, the documents they seized were not only related to Gene Hackman. Names such as Clint Eastwood, Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, and even high-ranking politicians appeared in the dusty files. Some documents were stamped "Top Secret for Internal Eyes Only," as if Gene Hackman wasn't just an actor, but also a living witness holding secrets that Hollywood feared. From a top star who once dominated the screen, Gene Hackman now emerged in a completely different light. The light of covert deals, deadly promises, and grudges that had haunted him for half a century. And the FBI, with all its power, could not allow any piece of this puzzle to fall into the hands of the public. The Golden Gates of Santa Fe closed behind the FBI convoy, leaving an empty mansion in the desolate desert. But that silence was just the beginning of the information storm that would soon engulf Hollywood in the days to come. Gene Hackman had passed, but his secrets had not. Gene Hackman's Santa Fe estate, as the first forensic lights cut through the thick curtains, appeared like an abandoned stage after the final curtain had fallen. A thin layer of dust settled on the doorknob, small cracks in the paint around the picture frames, and an oppressive atmosphere that seemed to scream stories no one wanted to hear. The forensic team moved silently, each member a shadow passing through the walls that had witnessed the glory and tragedy of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. But it wasn't until the door to the master bedroom was pushed open that they truly stepped into the darkness of the truth. There was nothing dramatic or grandiose like the Hollywood films Gene Hackman had once starred in. No bullet holes through glass, no bloody handprints on the walls, or frantic messages scrawled in red lipstick. Only absolute silence and an indescribable scent that crept through the wooden floorboards. In that space, Betsy Arakawa lay near the bathroom door, her head tilted to one side, eyes half open as if she had just drifted off after a lingering headache. Her silver-gray silk robe was dotted with water droplets from the nearby sink, forming circular patterns under the beam of the flashlight. Next to Betsy, a small space heater remained plugged in, its power light faintly flickering in the darkness. Around her were pills, some intact, others crushed into fine white powder. No pill bottles were nearby, nor was there a prescription. However, the list of medications later obtained revealed that these were no ordinary drugs. Many of them could only be prescribed in special cases, for patients who needed close monitoring or required special licenses. Not far from there, Gene Hackman was found on the master bed. He lay on his side, one arm dangling loosely as though he had tried to reach for something just beyond his grasp. His face, once famous for its sharp expressions on the silver screen, was now stiff and contorted, a grotesque reflection of something between pain and shock. The decomposition of his body indicated that his time of death closely matched Betsy's, a small but significant detail, enough to conclude that they had passed within a very short span of time, perhaps minutes or hours apart. The most significant discovery did not come from what the eyes could see, but from Gene Hackman's pacemaker. He had worn this device for many years, following severe cardiovascular complications. Every activity, from abnormal heart rhythms to brief arrhythmic episodes, was recorded and sent to a medical data center in real time. The final data point was logged at 2:43 a.m. on February 17th, after which all signals ceased. No heartbeats, no warnings, just utter silence. February 17th immediately became a pivotal date in reconstructing the events that led to the tragedy at the Golden Gates of Santa Fe. However, the initial clues collected by the investigative team did not stop there. Gene Hackman's master bedroom, despite its neat appearance, contained numerous oddities when observed more closely. On the nightstand, an open planner for the year 2025 lay before them. The first pages were filled with daily schedules, from Betsy's yoga sessions to Hackman's calls to the gardener, but as they flipped deeper into the planner, Gene's handwriting grew more erratic, with ink stains smeared across the pages, as if his hand had trembled while writing. Some lines were hastily crossed out, but a phrase, "They're watching again," was circled 3 times, like a warning that Hackman himself wasn't sure was real or just a hallucination. Two phones were also found, one being the latest model, still charging, and the other an old flip phone from the early 2000s. Neither had passwords, but the call history on both devices was almost empty for the 3 weeks leading up to February 17th. The strangest part was that the old phone occasionally received messages from an unknown number, each message consisting of a single line, repeatedly asking, "Are you ready?" These fragments of evidence, from the crushed pills, the mysterious planner, to the cryptic text messages, all seemed like tiny pieces of a colossal puzzle that no one knew would reveal what kind of picture. And while these items were only the tip of the iceberg, the investigative team understood that to uncover the truth behind the golden gates of Santa Fe, they would have to dig deeper. By the time the evidence was gathered, Gene Hackman's estate felt like an open book in the middle of a story. The opening chapters, filled with glory, love, and peaceful days, had now given way to jumbled, vague, and troubling lines. But the next chapter, the darkest one, might have just begun. The moment the bathroom door in the Santa Fe estate was opened, no one could forget the scene that unfolded. The golden light illuminated a chaotic and strange sight, as though the room itself was telling a story left unfinished. Betsy Arakawa lay there, near the bathroom door, her body contorted unnaturally, her head resting against the cold brick wall. White and blue pills were scattered across the floor, some rolling beneath the cabinet, mingling with fine dust and a few fallen strands of hair. Nearby, the small heater continued to hum, its warmth so intense that when the forensic team entered, they could feel the warm, humid air hit them like an unusual gust of wind, contrasting with the cold of February in Santa Fe. However, the presence of the pills was not the only thing that made everything seem strange. The small space heater, an otherwise innocuous item, turned out to be the first clue that skewed the overall picture. The heater had been plugged in and running continuously for days after the security camera system stopped recording. The abnormal temperature in the bathroom not only disrupted the crime scene analysis, but also directly impacted the rate at which Betsy's body decomposed. In fact, the constant heat created an embalming effect, causing her body to dry out due to the sustained heat, rather than decomposing as would be typical in such conditions. Betsy's posture was unlike typical overdose cases. There were no signs of convulsions, no bruising around the mouth, and her limbs weren't stiff or extended. She lay on her side, her knees slightly drawn up as if she had been reaching for the door. Her face lacked any sign of excruciating pain or panic, but there was something strangely calm in that stillness. Her dry, brittle fingers gently gripped the edge of the wooden floor, as though Betsy had seen something or someone outside the bathroom before everything came to an end. On February 26th, when the forensic team and Santa Fe County Police completed securing the scene, the FBI officially intervened. They didn't come just because of Gene Hackman's fame or the strangeness of the crime scene, but because of a strange clue. This phone was not registered under Gene Hackman's name, nor did it belong to Betsy. There were no matching fingerprints, and the data retrieved from the SIM card showed that it had connected to a number from a suburb of Albuquerque, nearly 100 miles south of Santa Fe. The contact list was empty, and the call history contained only 3 incoming calls, all from an anonymous number. Who left this phone behind, and why was it in Gene Hackman's house amid the bizarre deaths of the couple? It's possible that on the evening of February 16th, when Gene Hackman's heart rate spiked, or on the 18th and 20th of February, when his phone left the house, this person entered the home. This individual could be the owner of the third phone or the driver of the black truck. They left no fingerprints, had no face caught on the cameras, but they knew something. Something about the safe hidden behind the wardrobe, about what Gene Hackman had kept secret for years, about every corner of the estate, and maybe even the blind spots of the cameras. Most importantly, this person returned after Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa had died, not to harm them, but to search for something. What could be so valuable that someone would risk coming back to a house that had now become a crime scene? And who, in the quiet community of Santa Fe, chose to remain silent, even though they may have seen or heard something but said nothing? "9 days, 3 phones, 1 ghost car, and a person who knew some secrets were never meant to be uncovered. In every case that passes, the crime scene speaks, but in the Santa Fe estate, the scene didn't just speak, it whispered, leaking fragments as if someone deliberately left them behind, not to help the police solve the case, but to mislead them. And amidst all of this was the bottle of pills lying quietly next to the body of Betsy Arakawa. According to Betsy's medical records, her most recent prescription was issued by her family doctor on February 15, 2025, 2 days before Gene Hackman's pacemaker stopped working. The prescription itself was nothing out of the ordinary. Alprazolam 0.5 mg, an anti-anxiety medication Betsy had been using for years. One pill, Betsy sleeping soundly during her afternoon nap, but when the investigators checked the remaining pills in the bottle, they found that at least 6 pills were missing between February 15th and February 17. According to the logbook, Betsy had only taken 3 pills, so where had the rest gone? There were no records, no signs indicating that Betsy had increased her dosage. The question arose, who took those pills? And more importantly, what were they used for? Betsy's autopsy revealed a chilling detail. Although her body showed no signs of injury or forceful intervention, her stomach contained a compound that didn't match any of the medications Betsy had been prescribed. It wasn't alprazolam nor any heart medication or vitamins she commonly took. The New Mexico State Toxicology Lab took over 72 hours to identify this strange compound. The final result was a synthetic sedative not available in the legal market in the United States. Its chemical formula was similar to Mazalan, but with additional modifications designed to induce rapid anesthesia and short-term amnesia. A drug typically used in kidnappings or meticulously planned deaths. Betsy must have ingested this pill sometime between the night of February 16th and the morning of February 17th, the exact same time frame that Gene Hackman's pacemaker recorded irregular heartbeats. Someone had been in that house, not only to witness the events, but to intervene. Initially, Betsy Arakawa's death appeared to be a typical overdose. A pill bottle nearby, several tablets scattered on the floor, a half-full glass of water within arm's reach. But FBI investigators quickly noticed inconsistencies. First, the position of the body. Overdose victims typically lie curled up or face down, but Betsy was lying neatly on one side, her arms parallel, her knees slightly bent. This posture was unnatural for someone who had lost control due to the drugs. Second, there were no fingerprints from Betsy on the pill bottle, only fingerprints from Gene Hackman. According to internal cameras, the last time he touched the bottle was at noon on February 16th. Third, the contents of Betsy's stomach did not contain enough alprazolam to be fatal. The mysterious drug was the true cause of death. This led to a chilling theory. Someone had deliberately staged the scene, pushing the case toward a supposed overdose suicide, but lacking the patience or knowledge to make it convincing. The forensic analysis of the house revealed another strange clue. Signs that someone had been in the house for at least 48 hours after Jean and Betsy died. Strange footprints, size 43 specialized walking shoes, gently pressed into the bathroom floor, and uneven wiping marks on the bedroom door handle, as if someone had hastily wiped it with a paper towel. The internal camera system had been switched off for exactly 2 days, from February 17th to February 19th, and then turned back on without any new fingerprints on the control panel. Why didn't the intruder leave immediately after the act? What made them return, stay in the house for 2 days, and more importantly, what did they do during that time? Combining all the clues, the investigation team developed a bold yet chilling theory. On the evening of February 16th, someone had broken into the Hackman residence, possibly after prior surveillance. This person forced Betsy to take the strange drug and the enhanced sedative, both controlling and temporarily erasing her memory. When Betsy fell unconscious, Gene Hackman confronted the intruder, and at this moment, his pacemaker recorded abnormal heart rhythms. Gene Hackman may have died from acute stress or by being forced to take a drug. The intruder then stayed, staging the scene to look like a double overdose, but returned again to erase traces or search for something they hadn't taken. If this hypothesis is correct, the deaths of Jean and Betsy were not a suicide, as the local authorities hastily concluded, but a silent prescription, a prescription given to both of them by someone trying to protect secrets so dark they were willing to take lives. And perhaps that prescription was not yet complete, because what that person was looking for may have never left the house. The Santa Fe estate on the hill is no longer a home, but a cold monument, where time fragments into pieces, resting between silent walls. Every window frame, every floor tile, every door handle is a question yet to be answered. And amid the silent ghosts of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, a truth has been left behind, hanging like a door that was never fully closed. In the early days of the investigation, the FBI believed they had found the answer in Gene Hackman's private study. A vintage safe, cleverly hidden behind a wooden oak bookshelf with a mechanical lock. This was the type of safe Hackman had carried with him since his Hollywood glory days, a part of his obsessive need for privacy, but it also could be the doorway to the secrets he had carried throughout his life. When the investigative team opened the safe, they expected to find shocking evidence, manuscripts, threatening letters, or sensitive footage, something that could explain why Hackman and his wife had been followed, threatened, and ultimately met such a tragic end. However, inside, they only found strange items. A handwritten letter from the 1980s, written in faded blue ink, signed by a director involved in a past scandal, long deceased. A small notebook detailing secret meetings behind the scenes of film award ceremonies, meetings no journalist was allowed to attend. A simple USB drive labeled Nightmare Files. The safe had not been tampered with after Hackman and Betsy's deaths, raising a chilling question. Did the intruder know about it but deliberately leave it behind? Or was it simply that what they were searching for wasn't here? One of the key pieces of evidence collected by the FBI was the threatening messages that Gene Hackman had received in the 6 months leading up to his death. These weren't sent via email or personal phone calls, but rather through traditional paper letters, typed, with no fingerprints and no clear postmarks. The letters were short but chilling. "You know too much. Stay silent or silence will find you." Throughout his life, Gene Hackman had tried to downplay these warnings, telling a close friend that Hollywood was full of ghosts from the past, and sometimes those ghosts wanted to remind the living of their existence. He didn't believe he was in real danger. The story of Betsy Arakawa gradually began to emerge through the investigative files, no longer an image of a meek wife fading in the shadow of her husband, but something else. A small yet dangerous secret that the FBI had only just begun to skim the surface of. From the middle of 2024, Betsy had started gathering documents on the covert forces in Hollywood. Her handwritten notes found in the kitchen drawer mentioned names that only appeared on dark conspiracy theory forums. DL, a famous director accused of child abuse. HC, a media mogul who had silenced witnesses with money and lives. AP, a mysterious actress who vanished after publicly threatening to expose the list of pedophile parties in Malibu. Betsy didn't tell Gene about these investigations, but she left traces on her old laptop where the FBI discovered numerous searches related to the mysterious death of veteran actor David Careen, the suspicious suicide of Brittany Murphy, and leaked documents about human trafficking rings in Hollywood. The question that arises is, what did Betsy know, and whether her curiosity had made her a target before Gene? The FBI closed the Hackman-Arakawa case as an unresolved criminal investigation, but seasoned agents understood that the story didn't end in an internal report. It was part of a larger puzzle, where the more the spotlight shone, the darker the shadows behind it grew. Those responsible for the threatening letters sent to Gene Hackman may never reveal themselves, but their mark had been etched into every dark corner of Hollywood. Unsolved disappearances, blood-stained contracts, deaths that seemed accidental, but were, in fact, the culmination of a perfectly orchestrated silence. The Santa Fe mansion is now not only a crime scene, but an invisible monument to the souls devoured by Hollywood. What the FBI found was not a solution, but a door leading straight into the depths of the inferno of the film capital. Gene Hackman had recorded the final days of his and Betsy's lives in a handwritten journal, now housed in the FBI's most classified archives. The last pages were hurriedly written, with erratic handwriting. "They're getting closer. I don't know what I've done or what I've seen, but they know I know. If anyone finds this journal, understand that nothing in Hollywood is accidental." As for the USB drive, what the FBI called the nightmare files, no one outside the investigation team is permitted to know what it contained, but according to an anonymous agent, what they saw made even those who had cracked the N4TM cult codes shudder and turn away. As the darkness settles over the hilltop of Santa Fe, the door to the Hackman mansion remains ajar, a reminder that Hollywood never lets anyone truly leave in silence. For in the city of dreams, every extinguished star leaves behind a ghost, and those ghosts always know how to whisper in the ears of the living. The Hackman mansion is not just a crime scene, but a mass grave that buries the souls of a decaying Hollywood. What the FBI discovered was not a solution, but a doorway leading straight into the depths of hell in the heart of the film capital. The FBI made a jaw-dropping discovery beneath the lavish $4 million estate of Hollywood icon Gene Hackman, a concealed tunnel leading to a web of eerie secrets. Hidden away for decades, the underground passage held old photographs, cryptic notes, and mysterious vials of medicine, some sealed, others used. Investigators found dust-covered phones with unread messages, a crumpled planner filled with coded entries, and classified records hinting at secret meetings. As forensic experts analyze the findings, speculation runs wild. Was Hackman entangled in a hidden conspiracy, or does this buried mystery point to something far more sinister? See you in the next one. In a stunning twist, the FBI unearthed a hidden passage beneath Gene Hackman's lavish $4 million estate, revealing a trove of eerie secrets. Inside the concealed tunnel, investigators discovered aged photographs, cryptic notes, and mysterious vials, some sealed, others partially used. Dust-covered phones with unread messages and a planner filled with coded entries hinted at long-buried secrets. As forensic experts analyze the findings, speculation runs rampant. Was Hackman entangled in a covert operation, or does this discovery point to something far more sinister? See you in the next one. But what they uncovered inside left them frozen in disbelief. Unusual artifacts, coded messages, and unsettling relics only deepened the mystery. Each clue led to more questions, shrouding the truth in even greater secrecy. What hidden past lurks beneath Hackman's mansion? Stay with us as we unravel this eerie mystery and uncover the shocking truths that could rewrite history. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update on this gripping case. At 11:00 a.m., shocking new developments emerged in the mysterious death of legendary actor Gene Hackman. ABC News reports that authorities secured a search warrant for his $4 million New Mexico estate. However, what they uncovered inside has sent the case spiraling into a darker and more unsettling mystery than anyone could have anticipated. When FBI agents stepped into Gene Hackman's lavish mansion, an eerie sense of unease filled the air. Subtle yet chilling signs suggested that this was no ordinary accident or natural death. But the true bombshell dropped when they uncovered a hidden passage beneath the estate, an unmarked tunnel absent from the official blueprints, leading into a shadowy, enigmatic chamber. If this story captivates you and you love diving into unsolved mysteries, be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an update on this case. Share this video with friends and family to unravel the chilling secrets beneath Gene Hackman's mansion together. Have a theory about what's really going on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll keep digging and bringing you the latest developments as the truth unfolds. As the agents carefully made their way down the worn staircase, their flashlights flickered across the damp stone walls, unveiling a scene that sent shivers down their spines. Hidden beneath the grand estate of a Hollywood legend lay a secret storage room, untouched for decades. Dust-covered wooden crates stood in eerie silence, some decayed and crumbling, while others remained sealed as if guarding long-buried secrets. The air was thick with mystery, the space resembling a forgotten vault of hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. As an agent pried open the lid of one crate, the room fell into an eerie silence. Inside, a collection of aged, yellowed photographs revealed shadowy figures, faces from an unknown past, their expressions frozen in time. Some images captured clandestine meetings, obscure locations, and individuals whose identities remained a mystery. Alongside them, a set of worn, leather-bound files contained brittle pages covered in frantic, hastily scrawled notes, documenting events so startling that no one could have foreseen their existence. In another crate, agents uncovered a collection of personal artifacts: a vintage pocket watch, delicate jewelry, and a small, time-worn notebook filled with handwritten entries. The notes appeared to be intimate confessions or recollections of something deeply significant, but the most unsettling discovery was yet to come. As the flashlight beams swept across the tunnel's depths, an old iron door emerged from the shadows. Rusted with age and sealed with a heavy, corroded lock, it had no visible handle, only silence pressing against its surface. What lay beyond it? Could it hold the key to Gene Hackman and his wife's mysterious deaths, or was it guarding something even more sinister? The FBI remains tight-lipped about their findings, fueling wild speculation. Some whisper that the tunnel connects to a hidden underground network, while others believe it conceals evidence of a long-buried conspiracy. One thing is certain: this mystery is far from over. Inside an aged wooden crate, agents unearthed an unsettling assortment of tools. Some appeared to belong to a master craftsman, while others looked like instruments designed for unknown, perhaps even sinister experiments. A sense of unease filled the air as they exchanged wary glances. What had truly taken place in this concealed chamber? As they pressed on, their flashlights revealed cryptic carvings etched into the walls and strange symbols scattered across the floor. Were these merely forgotten relics from Hackman's past? Or did they point to something far more ominous lurking beneath the surface? Every discovery deepened the mystery, sparking wild speculation about the secrets Gene Hackman may have taken to his grave. The truth could be buried within the tunnel itself, a passage that might hold the final piece of a puzzle no one expected. As investigators work to connect the scattered clues, the world watches with anticipation, waiting for the revelation that could finally bring the darkness into the light. Gene Hackman's estate has long captivated attention, not just for its multi-million-dollar value, but for the aura of secrecy that surrounds it. Nestled in a remote location, guarded by towering walls and an imposing gate, the mansion exudes an air of exclusivity, where luxury and mystery intertwine. Every detail, from its pristine gardens to its opulent interiors, speaks of grandeur. Yet, beneath its polished surface lies a chilling secret, a hidden tunnel buried deep underground. This discovery has ignited endless speculation. Was it a concealed escape route, a vault for classified information, or something far more sinister? The discovery of the tunnel doesn't just cast doubt on the mansion. It deepens the mystery surrounding Hackman's life. What's even more unsettling is the estate's precise design and heightened security, almost as if it was built to hide something significant. Each new clue transforms the property into a maze of unanswered questions, fueling public intrigue. But the real shock came when the FBI stumbled upon the tunnel, while investigating Hackman's suspicious death. How had such a hidden passage remained undiscovered for so many years? And more importantly, what was its true purpose? Early reports indicate that the tunnel may have been constructed decades ago, possibly serving a purpose far more deliberate than mere privacy. Some speculate it was designed as a hidden retreat for Hackman, shielding him from the outside world. Others suggest it could lead to a concealed underground chamber, perhaps storing something of great value. A more startling theory proposes that the passage extends beyond the estate, potentially linking to other properties, raising questions about a secret network that has remained undiscovered until now. As investigators delved further, they uncovered a string of puzzling artifacts, aged documents, unidentified gadgets, and most intriguingly, cryptic symbols carved into the walls. One agent speculated that these markings could be part of an unknown code system, adding another layer of mystery to the case. This discovery led to unsettling questions. Was Hackman safeguarding evidence of a secret operation, or had he been drawn into an obsession with creating a hidden underground sanctuary? Authorities are now combing through property records to uncover whether local builders or past owners had any knowledge of the tunnel's existence. Some longtime residents recall eerie rumors of workers vanishing under mysterious circumstances after being involved in renovations at the estate. Others speculate that the passage could be a long-forgotten escape route, possibly a remnant of an earlier security design. But with each new revelation, the mystery only deepens. As curiosity surrounding the tunnel intensifies, speculation runs rampant. Some claim it concealed a hidden fortune, while others suspect it was used for covert activities. But is this passage merely a forgotten relic, or does it hold the key to a far greater mystery? The discovery has set off an investigation unlike anything seen before, with authorities racing to uncover the truth. The revelation of a hidden tunnel beneath Gene Hackman's estate has sent shockwaves through the public, especially given the unsettling circumstances surrounding his and his wife Betsy's deaths. As investigators dig deeper, suspicions grow. Could this tunnel contain the missing pieces to unravel the mystery of their final days? The mysterious circumstances of Hackman's death and the eerie signs surrounding it make the tunnel's existence even more suspicious. Some believe it served as a hidden escape route, allowing someone to slip in or out of the mansion undetected. But the real question is, who needed such secrecy, and for what purpose? As investigators sift through the strange artifacts found inside, they search for connections to Hackman and Betsy's final days. The aged documents, unsettling photographs, and peculiar objects may hold the key to a side of Hackman's life the world never knew. Meanwhile, the cryptic symbols carved into the walls suggest a deeper, more enigmatic truth, one that could point to hidden alliances, secret dealings, or even a concealed past that was never meant to be uncovered. As neighbors and longtime acquaintances come forward, their recollections add more intrigue to the case. Some recall cryptic remarks Hackman made about unseen dangers, while others speak of late-night visitors who arrived in secrecy and left without a trace. Whispers of hidden dealings and unspoken fears now cast a new shadow over the mansion's past. With each new revelation, the link between the tunnel and the mysterious deaths of Hackman and his wife grows more puzzling. Every piece of evidence uncovered has the potential to unlock the truth, or push the mystery even deeper into the unknown. The growing silence from authorities has only deepened public suspicion. Despite the discovery of hidden tunnels, cryptic symbols, and strange artifacts beneath Gene Hackman's mansion, officials remain unusually reserved. Their statements are brief, vague, like pieces of a puzzle deliberately left unsolved. The FBI has scoured every inch of the underground passage, yet the unsettling relics they've uncovered seem to hint at a story that remains untold. As the world anxiously awaits answers, all they receive is an eerie void of information. The biggest questions remain unanswered. Why was the tunnel built? Who used it, and for what purpose? And most importantly, what secrets still lie buried beneath the surface? In a stunning turn of events, the FBI uncovered a hidden tunnel beneath Gene Hackman's mansion, and what they found inside left them in stunned silence. Among the eerie discoveries were old, dust-covered cell phones with shattered screens, still holding unread messages, potential clues to secret dealings, covert exchanges, or warnings that were never delivered. A worn-out planner filled with frantic scribbles and marked dates seemed to outline a hidden timeline, one that could expose a story never meant to be told. Agents also uncovered cryptic records of encounters with unidentified individuals, references to locations that appeared nowhere on official maps, and a collection of mysterious vials, evidence that hinted at a secret medical treatment, an experimental drug, or perhaps something even more sinister. Some vials remained sealed, while others showed signs of use, yet their purpose and the identities of those involved remained unknown. Every discovery felt like a fragment of a larger, concealed narrative, one that someone had gone to great lengths to bury in the shadows. Each clue uncovered brings investigators one step closer to exposing the truth hidden within Hackman's mansion. As tension mounts, the world watches, unsure if they are on the verge of uncovering a shocking revelation or merely chasing fragments of a mystery that may never be fully solved. The FBI expected an ordinary investigation, but what they uncovered inside Gene Hackman's multi-million-dollar estate sent shockwaves through Hollywood. The safe remained untouched, the front door unforced, yet the horrors within were beyond imagination. Hidden chambers, cryptic symbols, and chilling artifacts hinted at a sinister world lurking beneath the industry's polished surface. Beneath the dazzling lights of Hollywood lay a dark underbelly, rituals, forbidden gatherings, and whispered secrets that even the most scandalous tabloids dared not expose. The FBI didn't just uncover evidence. They shattered the illusion, peeling back Hollywood's shimmering facade to reveal the grotesque machinery beneath. Gene Hackman didn't just walk away. He fled from a truth too terrifying to ignore. What remained in his wake wasn't just a mystery, but a damning testament to an industry built on secrets, where fame wasn't earned. It was sacrificed. The sun cast long shadows over the quiet roads of Santa Fe as the Golden Gate sealed shut, locking away the whispers of a forgotten truth. Among the adobe homes and artistic landscapes stood a mansion, a retreat where Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa had sought refuge for over 30 years. Once a fortress of solitude for the Oscar-winning legend, it had kept Hollywood's noise at bay. But in the somber light of early 2024, those walls no longer guarded privacy. They entombed a chilling mystery waiting to be unearthed. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's fate came to light in the most unassuming way. The familiar glow from the glass-walled room at the back of the house, where Gene once lost himself in books, tea in hand, had vanished. The mail piled up, untouched, spilling onto the ground in a silent plea for attention. The mailman, sensing something was wrong, reported the eerie stillness. When the Santa Fe police finally breached the door, they stepped into a scene so haunting, so unimaginable, that it would leave even the most seasoned officers speechless. Gene Hackman's body lay motionless on the living room floor, his form contorted, his once familiar face frozen in an expression of something indescribable. Betsy Arakawa sat slumped against the sofa, her lifeless hand dangling as if she had reached for something. Perhaps help. Perhaps a final grasp at reality. No blood, no struggle, just an eerie stillness that sent a chill through the air. Yet, the putrid scent of decay clung to every corner, forcing even seasoned forensic officers to recoil. They hadn't just died. They had been gone far longer than anyone had imagined. The first words entered into the Santa Fe police report were brief but chilling. Silent death. The silence didn't linger. As word of their deaths slipped into the streets of Santa Fe, the air buzzed with whispers and unease. Some claimed Gene Hackman had been silenced, a calculated Hollywood purge to bury long-forgotten sins. Others spun a darker tale. Betsy Arakawa had been poisoned, and in a moment of anguish, Hackman had followed her into the abyss, unable to bear the weight of his final tragedy. Fact and fiction blurred, but one thing was undeniable. This was no ordinary passing, and the unease spread like wildfire. The case took an unsettling turn when the FBI arrived. The quiet death of a retired Hollywood legend rarely warranted federal attention. Yet as soon as the local coroner completed their examination, a fleet of black SUVs rolled through the golden gates of Hackman's estate. No flashing lights, no sirens, just a silent procession of agents in dark suits and unreadable expressions. They moved with precision, disappearing into the mansion as if they already knew what they were looking for. The question spread like wildfire. Why would the FBI intervene in the death of an actor who had long vanished from the spotlight? It reached the public, but whispers from within the investigation hinted at something far more sinister. An anonymous source claimed that what the FBI found inside Hackman's Santa Fe mansion changed everything. This wasn't just the quiet passing of an aging couple, nor a collection of nostalgic keepsakes. Behind an old oak bookshelf, hidden in plain sight, they uncovered a secret room, a space so deliberately concealed that even longtime visitors had never suspected its existence. Gene Hackman had once joked, "If I have any secrets, they'll go with me to the grave." But now it seemed those secrets refused to stay buried. What lay inside that hidden room remains a tightly guarded mystery. But one thing was certain. It wasn't just about Gene Hackman. According to a source present at the scene, the documents seized by the FBI carried names that sent shockwaves through the investigation. Clint Eastwood, Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, even powerful political figures, were all listed in the aging, dust-covered files. Some bore the chilling stamp, top secret, for internal eyes only. It was as if Hackman had been more than just an actor. He had been a silent keeper of Hollywood's most feared secrets, a living archive of truths that were never meant to see the light of day. Once a titan of the silver screen, Gene Hackman now stood at the center of a far darker narrative, one of covert dealings, unbreakable oaths, and vendettas that had shadowed him for decades. The man who once commanded Hollywood now seemed entangled in something far beyond the glitz of cinema. And the FBI, wielding its full authority, moved swiftly, not to seek justice, but to ensure that whatever secrets lay within those walls would never reach the public eye. As the FBI convoy disappeared beyond the golden gates of Santa Fe, the mansion stood empty, a relic swallowed by the endless desert. But the silence it left behind was deceptive, merely the calm before a storm that would soon shake Hollywood to its core. Gene Hackman was gone, but the secrets he guarded refused to be buried with him. As the forensic lights pierced through the heavy curtains of Gene Hackman's Santa Fe estate, the mansion resembled a theater long after its final act. Dust coated the doorknobs, hairline cracks framed forgotten portraits, and an eerie stillness clung to the air, whispering untold stories no one dared to speak aloud. The forensic team moved like ghosts through the dimly lit halls, their silent footsteps tracing the echoes of both triumph and tragedy that had unfolded within these walls. But it wasn't until the master bedroom door creaked open that they truly crossed the threshold into an unsettling truth. There were no cinematic theatrics, no shattered glass, no desperate messages smeared across the walls, no trail of blood leading to a final revelation. Just an oppressive stillness and a lingering scent seeping through the wooden floorboards like a whisper from something long hidden, something the world was never meant to find. In that dimly lit space, Betsy Arakawa rested near the bathroom door, her head gently slumped to one side, eyes half open, as if caught in the moment between wakefulness and an unshakable fatigue. Her silver-gray silk robe bore scattered droplets of water, glistening under the forensic beam in delicate, ghostly patterns. Beside her, a small space heater remained plugged in, its power light pulsing weakly, a solitary flicker in the overwhelming darkness. Scattered around her were pills, some whole, others ground into a fine white powder. There were no pill bottles, no prescription slips, nothing to explain their presence. But when investigators later obtained a list of the substances, the truth became far more unsettling. These weren't ordinary medications. Many were highly restricted, requiring special authorization, reserved only for cases demanding intense supervision. Whatever Betsy Arakawa had ingested, it was never meant to be in the hands of just anyone. A few steps away, Gene Hackman lay on the master bed, his body curled slightly, one arm hanging over the edge as if reaching for something unseen. The face that once captivated audiences with its commanding presence was now frozen in a twisted grimace, somewhere between pain and an unspoken horror. The forensic team noted the chilling detail. His body showed signs of decomposition nearly identical to Betsy's. Whatever had taken them, it had happened in close succession. Minutes, perhaps hours apart, two lives fading almost in unison, leaving behind only unanswered questions. The most crucial discovery wasn't something visible. It came from Gene Hackman's pacemaker. For years, the device had silently monitored his heart, recording every irregular beat and transmitting data in real time to a medical center. But at exactly 2:43 a.m. on February 17th, the signals abruptly stopped. No final spikes, no distress alerts. Just an eerie, absolute silence. That single data point became the key to unraveling the final moments within the Golden Gates of Santa Fe, marking February 17th as the day everything changed. But the anomalies didn't end there. Despite the bedroom's outward order, a closer look revealed unsettling details. On the nightstand lay an open planner for 2025, its early pages filled with mundane notes, Betsy's yoga classes, reminders to call the gardener. Yet as investigators flipped further, Gene Hackman's handwriting began to unravel. The once precise script turned shaky, ink smudged as if written with an unsteady hand. Some entries were violently scratched out, but one phrase stood untouched, circled 3 times with increasing pressure. They're watching again. A warning, a delusion, or a final desperate attempt to leave behind a truth he knew would soon be buried? Investigators also uncovered 2 phones. One, a sleek, modern smartphone still plugged into its charger, the other an aging flip phone from the early 2000s, its surface worn from years of use. Neither device was locked, yet their call logs were eerily barren, as if someone had wiped them clean. For 3 weeks leading up to February 17th, there was almost no activity, but the most unsettling discovery lay within the old flip phone. Scattered among the sparse messages was a recurring text from an unknown number, always the same cryptic question: "Are you ready?" Each clue, the crushed pills, the erratic planner, the ominous text messages, felt like scattered fragments of a puzzle whose final image remained elusive. They were only scratching the surface, yet the deeper they looked, the more unsettling the picture became. As investigators combed through the estate, it felt less like a crime scene and more like a story interrupted, its final chapters still unwritten. The Golden Gates of Santa Fe had once guarded a life of triumph, love, and quiet retreat. Now they stood as the threshold to a mystery far more sinister, one that was only just beginning. The moment the bathroom door creaked open, the scene inside was impossible to forget. The golden light cast eerie shadows over a tableau frozen in time, as if the room itself had been caught mid-sentence in a story never finished. Betsy Arakawa lay slumped near the doorway, her body twisted at an unnatural angle, her head resting against the cold brick wall. Scattered across the floor were white and blue pills, some lodged beneath the cabinet, blending with the dust and a few stray strands of hair. A small space heater hummed nearby, radiating an oppressive heat that clashed unnervingly with the crisp February air outside. The forensic team hesitated at the threshold, struck by the unsettling contrast. This was no ordinary scene, and the answers it held would not come easily. But it wasn't just the scattered pills that made the scene unsettling. The small space heater, an otherwise mundane object, became the first anomaly that warped the entire picture. Investigators discovered that it had been running non-stop for days, ever since the estate's security cameras mysteriously stopped recording. The intense heat inside the bathroom didn't just distort the forensic timeline, it actively altered the state of Betsy Arakawa's remains. Instead of the expected signs of decay, her body had undergone a slow, unnatural drying process, almost as if it had been deliberately preserved. What should have been a straightforward investigation now felt like a carefully staged illusion designed to obscure the truth. Betsy's position defied the usual patterns of an overdose. There were no spasms, no foam at the mouth, no rigid limbs frozen in distress. Instead, she lay on her side, knees faintly bent, as if she had been caught mid-motion, reaching, hesitating. Her expression was eerily serene, untouched by panic or agony, yet her fingers told another story. Dry and brittle from prolonged exposure to heat, they clutched the edge of the wooden floor with unsettling delicacy. It was as if, in her final moments, Betsy had seen something, someone, just beyond the doorway. And whatever it was, she hadn't looked away. On February 26th, as the forensic team wrapped up their analysis, the FBI officially stepped in, not just because of Gene Hackman's status or the eerie nature of the scene, but because of one chilling anomaly: a phone, not registered to Hackman, not linked to Betsy. No fingerprints, no stored contacts, just a SIM card that had briefly connected to a number from an Albuquerque suburb, nearly 100 miles away. The call log contained only 3 incoming calls, all from an anonymous source. No messages, no outgoing calls, just a device left behind like a planted seed, waiting to be found. Who had placed it there? And more importantly, what message had it carried before silence swallowed it whole? It's likely that on the night of February 16th, when Gene Hackman's heart rate spiked, or on February 18th and 20, when his phone inexplicably left the estate, someone had entered the house. This individual may have been the owner of the unregistered phone or the driver of the black truck seen lingering near the property. They left no fingerprints, no trace on security footage, yet they moved with a knowledge only an insider could possess. They knew about the hidden safe behind the wardrobe, the estate's blind spots, and most chillingly, they returned after Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were already gone. Not to kill, but to retrieve something. What could be so valuable that someone would risk entering a home that had become a crime scene? And in the quiet, watchful community of Santa Fe, who had seen something, perhaps a shadow slipping through the night, an unfamiliar engine humming down the road, but chose to say nothing? "9 days, 3 phones, 1 ghost car, and a presence that moved through the estate like a shadow. Someone who understood that some secrets were never meant to be uncovered. In most cases, the crime scene tells a story, but in Gene Hackman's Santa Fe estate, it didn't just speak, it whispered, dropping fragments of truth like breadcrumbs, not to lead investigators forward, but to send them astray. And in the midst of it all lay a single, unassuming bottle of pills beside Betsy Arakawa's body. According to her medical records, her last prescription had been filled just days earlier, on February 15th, 2025, 2 days before Hackman's pacemaker flatlined. The medication itself was routine. Alprazolam 0.5 mg are the same anti-anxiety prescription Betsy had taken for years. But as the forensic team examined the pills more closely, something was off. The shape was slightly irregular, the markings subtly different. It was as if someone had replaced the familiar with a near-perfect imitation, one designed not to soothe but to silence. One pill, Betsy, drifting into a peaceful afternoon nap. But when investigators counted the remaining pills in the bottle, the numbers didn't add up. At least 6 were missing between February 15th and February 17th. According to her log, Betsy had only taken 3. So where had the others gone? There were no records of an increased dosage, no medical reason for the discrepancy, which led to the real question: Who else had access to those pills? And what were they used for? Then came the most unsettling discovery. Betsy's autopsy revealed a foreign compound in her system, something that didn't match any of her prescribed medications. It wasn't alprazolam, nor her usual heart pills or vitamins. It was something else entirely, a substance that wasn't supposed to be there, raising the most chilling possibility of all. Betsy hadn't just taken her usual medication. Someone had given her something else. It took the New Mexico State Toxicology Lab more than 72 hours to identify the foreign compound in Betsy Arakawa's system. The results were chilling: a synthetic sedative with no legal distribution in the United States. Its chemical structure resembled mazalan, but had been altered to act faster, inducing near-instant anesthesia and short-term memory loss, a formula commonly linked to abductions or carefully orchestrated deaths. Betsy had ingested this drug sometime between the night of February 16th and the morning of February 17th, the same critical window when Gene Hackman's pacemaker registered sudden irregularities. The evidence was no longer just circumstantial. Someone had been inside that house, not just watching, but taking deliberate action. At first glance, Betsy Arakawa's death seemed like a textbook overdose. A pill bottle beside her, scattered tablets on the floor, a half-full glass of water within reach. But to FBI investigators, the scene felt staged. The first red flag? Her body position. Overdose victims often collapse in unnatural, contorted ways, their muscles surrendering to the drug's effects. But Betsy was different. Lying neatly on her side, arms resting parallel, knees slightly bent, as if carefully placed rather than having fallen naturally. It wasn't the posture of someone who had lost control, it was the posture of someone arranged after the fact. The second red flag came from the pill bottle itself. Betsy's fingerprints were nowhere to be found. The only prints detected belonged to Gene Hackman, last seen handling the bottle at noon on February 16th, according to the estate's internal cameras. Then came the most damning detail. Betsy's stomach contained only trace amounts of alprazolam, far below a fatal dose. The real culprit was the unidentified sedative, the one never prescribed to her. This led investigators to a chilling realization. Someone had attempted to stage her death as an overdose, but lacked the patience or the knowledge to make it convincing. The setup was careless, rushed, as if the person behind it had other priorities beyond simply covering their tracks. Forensic analysis uncovered another disturbing anomaly. Someone had remained inside the house for at least 48 hours after Gene and Betsy's deaths. Subtle but telling traces revealed their presence. A set of footprints, size 43, made by specialized walking shoes, faintly imprinted on the bathroom floor. Smudged wipe marks on the bedroom door handle, as if someone had hurriedly cleaned it with a paper towel. Most chilling of all, the estate's internal security system had been manually disabled for exactly 2 days, from February 17 to February 19th, before being switched back on, with no new fingerprints found on the control panel. Whoever this person was, they didn't just flee after the act, they stayed. The question was, why? What kept them inside the house for 2 full days? And more importantly, what were they doing during that time? On the night of February 16th, someone infiltrated the Hackman estate, likely after days of careful surveillance. This wasn't a random break-in, it was calculated, deliberate. Betsy Arakawa was the first target. The intruder forced her to ingest the synthetic sedative, a drug designed to subdue and erase short-term memory, leaving her defenseless. As the drug took hold, she lost control, slipping into unconsciousness. Then came the moment of confrontation. Gene Hackman, realizing something was wrong, came face to face with the intruder. It was at this precise moment that his pacemaker recorded its first irregular spike, a surge that could have been triggered by sheer terror, a sudden struggle, or worse, chemical interference. The intruder didn't just kill, they lingered. After staging the scene to resemble a double overdose, they returned, either to erase evidence or to retrieve something they had failed to take the first time. If this theory held, then Jean and Betsy's deaths were no tragic suicide, as local authorities hastily concluded, but something far more insidious, a silent prescription, a calculated elimination, handed down by someone determined to bury secrets so dark they were worth killing for. And perhaps that prescription remained unfinished, because whatever the intruder was searching for may have never left the house at all. The once warm Santa Fe estate now stands as a hollow monument, frozen in time, its walls holding echoes of a story unfinished. Every window pane, every floorboard, every untouched surface lingers as an unanswered question, a whisper of something just out of reach. And within the quiet specters of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, a truth lingers, unspoken, unresolved, like a door left ajar, waiting for someone to finally step through. In the initial days of the investigation, the FBI thought they had found their breakthrough inside Gene Hackman's private study, a vintage safe, discreetly concealed behind a heavy oak bookshelf, its mechanical lock untouched. This was no ordinary vault. It was the kind Hackman had kept with him since his Hollywood prime, a testament to his deep-seated obsession with privacy. But more than that, it could be the gateway to the secrets he had safeguarded for a lifetime, secrets that now held the power to rewrite everything investigators thought they knew. When investigators pried open the safe, they braced for explosive revelations, hidden manuscripts, blackmail letters, or incriminating footage, something that could explain why Hackman and Betsy had been watched, threatened, and ultimately silenced. But instead, they uncovered a collection of peculiar relics. A faded handwritten letter from the 1980s, signed by a long-dead director entangled in an old Hollywood scandal. A small notebook chronicling secret meetings behind the scenes of film award ceremonies, gatherings no journalist had ever been allowed to witness, and a single USB drive labeled Nightmare Files. One of the most crucial pieces of evidence gathered by the FBI was a series of ominous messages Gene Hackman had received in the 6 months preceding his death. These weren't digital threats. No emails, no phone calls. Instead, they arrived the old-fashioned way, typed letters, devoid of fingerprints, with no identifiable postmarks. Each one was carefully crafted, as if the sender had gone to great lengths to ensure their words could never be traced. The letters were brief but deeply unsettling. "You know too much. Stay silent, or silence will find you." Gene Hackman had spent a lifetime brushing off such warnings, once confiding in a close friend that Hollywood was haunted by the ghosts of its past, specters that occasionally resurfaced to remind the living of their presence. He never truly believed he was in danger. As investigators delved deeper, Betsy Arakawa's story began to shift. No longer just the devoted wife standing quietly in her husband's shadow, but a figure entangled in something far more dangerous, a secret that the FBI had only begun to unravel. By mid-2024, Betsy had been quietly compiling documents on Hollywood's hidden forces. Tucked away in a kitchen drawer, her handwritten notes listed names that had long circulated in the darkest corners of conspiracy forums. DL, a renowned director accused of child abuse. HC, a media mogul known for silencing witnesses with both money and blood. AP, an actress who mysteriously vanished after threatening to expose an elite circle behind Malibu's secret parties. Betsy hadn't just stumbled upon these names, she had been searching for them, and now it seemed someone had made sure she wouldn't get any further.